Have you ever felt like you're doing your best but still going in circles? You read the books, you set the goals, you listen to podcasts, you follow the tips, you want change, you work for change. But somehow, after all that effort, you wake up one day and realize nothing's really changed. Same thoughts, same reactions, same regrets, different month, same loop. Jim Rohn once said, "You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight." That's what today is about. Not willpower, not motivation, direction. Because maybe you're not stuck, you're just repeating a pattern you didn't choose, a pattern you don't even see, but a pattern that's driving everything. Let's look at that, the invisible loops that shape our days and silently script our tomorrows. Maybe it's the pattern of saying yes to everything, then wondering why you're burned out. Maybe it's the pattern of self-sabotage, just when things start going well. Maybe it's the pattern of starting strong but quitting before momentum builds. Patterns don't just live in your habits. They live in your beliefs. They live in your self-image. They live in your philosophy. And as Jim Rohn taught, your philosophy is what determines your future. Today, we're going to trace the root. We'll decode the hidden loops. We'll look at the pattern underneath the feeling of being stuck. And we'll ask the question that starts real change. What belief is keeping this pattern alive? Because when you name a pattern, you begin to own it. And what you own, you can change. This isn't just about motivation, it's about liberation. It's about choosing a direction you actually believe in, one that leads you out of the loop. So take a breath, not to try harder, but to look deeper. You're not broken, you're not behind, you're not lost, you're just repeating a pattern, and today, we break it. Let's begin. Let's get honest for a moment. Most people don't feel stuck because they lack ambition. They feel stuck because they keep reliving the same emotional experience again and again. You've probably been there. You tell yourself, this year will be different. You write down goals, buy a new planner, watch a few motivational clips. You feel hopeful for a while. Then suddenly, life gets loud again. Deadlines, doubt, distractions. You miss one day, then two, then the spiral returns. That pattern? It's not laziness. It's not failure. It's a subconscious script quietly running the show. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So today, we name it. We expose the loop, because you can't rewrite a pattern you're too distracted to notice. Let's break this down. Most people are stuck in what I call the productivity trap. They're busy, always in motion, always doing something. But if you pause the noise and ask what changed in the last 6 months, the answer is often silence. Here's why. We've been trained to chase action, but not awareness. We celebrate effort, but rarely examine alignment. So we fall into a loop. Try hard, burn out, feel guilty, try again harder. And the more we repeat that cycle, the more it feels like this is just who I am. But let me tell you something real. You're not the loop. You're just in the loop. The question is, what created the loop? Let's look at 3 culprits. 1, the habit of mindless reaction. Most of us are addicted to reacting. Notifications, comments, conversations, requests. We're living in response mode, which means you rarely choose your direction. You respond to someone else's. That's not life by design. That's life by default. And if your energy is always going outward, when do you ever stop to check what's going inward? This is where patterns begin, in what you tolerate, in what you don't question, in what you accept without clarity. Think about it. How often do you pause just to reflect on how you responded? Not what you did, but how you did it? That's the first leak of power, when you confuse being busy with being in control. 2. The addiction to starting over. Here's a pattern most people don't see. They love the high of beginnings, the dopamine of day one. They get excited, inspired, motivated. But a few days in, the grind hits, resistance shows up, and instead of pushing through, they reset. They change the planner, switch the system, buy a new book. But what they're really doing is escaping the discomfort of consistency. They're stuck in a loop of chasing freshness over building rhythm. Jim Rohn said, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. But that bridge, it's not built in a day. It's built in repetition, through boredom, through resistance, through days that don't feel magical but still matter. Starting feels good, but staying, that's where the transformation is. 3. The hidden self-image loop. Here's a tough truth. You can't outperform your self-image. You might set a big goal, you might even make progress, but if deep down you don't see yourself as the kind of person who finishes, you'll find a way to sabotage. You'll delay, distract, diminish. Not because you're weak, but because your identity hasn't caught up to your dream. And the scary part, you won't even realize you're doing it, because it feels familiar, safe, normal. That's how powerful unconscious patterns are. They don't need your permission, just your repetition. So what do? We pause, we reflect, we disrupt the pattern. We bring intention where there was once reaction. We bring clarity where there was once confusion. And that's why this talk isn't just information, it's interruption, a pattern interrupt. To remind you, you are not stuck because you're broken. You're stuck because your pattern is on autopilot. But today, you become the pilot. Not by doing more, but by noticing more, by reclaiming the power of pause. Because awareness is always the beginning of transformation, and transformation begins with a pattern rewritten. Let's move into that next step, where we uncover the tools Jim Rohn taught to rewire your direction. Because once you shift your pattern, you shift your path. So far, we've uncovered the pattern. We've seen how unconscious habits shape our reality. Now, let's learn how to break the loop. Because Jim Rohn didn't just teach motivation. He taught transformation through philosophy. He believed that true change doesn't begin with hustle. It begins with how you think, not your to-do list, not your goals, but the philosophy behind them. So let's explore 3 core principles from Jim Rohn that help you interrupt the loop and redirect your life. Let's begin with the first. 1. Trit lenient thuk. Change begins with awareness. Jim said, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. Potts. It's one of his most quoted lines, but it's often misunderstood. Most people think it means change your actions, but here's the deeper truth. Direction doesn't come from doing more. It comes from thinking differently. Awareness is the first act of power, because until you see the pattern, you can't steer it. Think of a ship in the ocean. If the compass is just 1 degree off, over time it drifts thousands of miles from its goal. That's what happens to us. We drift, not because we're lazy, but because our internal compass is misaligned. So here's the question. What belief is silently shaping your life? Is it, I'm not good enough yet? I always mess things up? People like me don't succeed? Those aren't facts, they're philosophies. And philosophies are powerful, because they don't just influence what you do, they influence what you won't even try. Jim Rohn taught us, stand guard at the door of your mind. Every day, beliefs knock on that door. Only you decide who gets in. 2. Tritlive kilut na. Success, small things done daily. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. That's Jim's second foundation. People think success comes from breakthroughs, big launches, major life changes. But Jim knew success is quiet, success is boring, success is daily. He said, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Without the bridge, your dreams stay across the river. Here's where people get it wrong. They try to change everything overnight. They burn out. Then they say, I'm stuck. But the truth is, they skipped the bridge. Jim's approach was simple. You don't need to move mountains. Just move a pebble every day. That's how you shift your pattern, not with pressure, but with rhythm. And here's a powerful mindset shift. Discipline isn't restriction. It's freedom, earned through structure. When you commit to one small discipline daily, you're not stuck. You're building your escape route. So ask yourself, what's one simple thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? And then do that. Do it quietly. Do it even when no one claps, because you're not building applause, you're building alignment. 3. Tritli vetutnant thuk. You can't outperform your identity. Jim used to say, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. That quote isn't about shame, it's about agency. It's about taking responsibility for your growth. Because you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. You might set big goals, but if deep down, you still see yourself as someone who quits, you'll sabotage before success arrives. So how do you break the identity loop? You tell the truth, and then you tell a new one. Not with hype, but with honesty, with repetition. Jim believed in journaling, not just as reflection, but as redefinition. He said, don't just live life, record it. When you write, you remember. When you repeat, you rewire. So write, I'm not stuck, I'm shifting. I'm not lazy, I'm learning consistency. I'm not behind, I'm building rhythm. Every new sentence you write about yourself is one less sentence the old pattern gets to keep. Because identity isn't fixed, it's practiced, it's earned. And Jim Rohn taught us, who you become will always matter more than what you achieve. So let's put this together. 1. Start with awareness. Your thoughts shape your path. 2. Build discipline through small, daily, unglamorous actions. 3. Rewrite your identity, one truthful, intentional line at a time. You are not stuck. You're just repeating a philosophy. But once you choose a new one, you shift everything. Because life doesn't change when you try harder, it changes when you think better. And as Jim Rohn would say, the key to your better future is you. Let's step into that future on purpose. We've talked about patterns, we've explored philosophy, now let's talk about action. Because all the insight in the world means nothing if it doesn't become practice. So let's make it simple, clear, doable. 3 small things that require no money, no app, no perfection, just intention. Let's begin. 1. The pattern reflection, 3 lines every night. This takes less than 5 minutes, but it can shift the direction of your entire life. Each night before you sleep, answer these 3 questions. What pattern showed up in me today? What outcome did I secretly expect? How do I want to respond differently tomorrow? That's it. No journaling for hours, just awareness. Because the only pattern you can change is the one you can see. This exercise creates a mirror, a moment of mindfulness. And that moment, it makes all the difference. Jim Rohn said, days are expensive. When you spend a day, you have one less to spend. So spend each one wisely, and this reflection is the receipt of your time. 2. The pattern rewire, 1 pattern, 1 new choice. Here's the truth. Patterns don't disappear by force. They dissolve through design. So here's what you do. Step 1, choose 1 pattern you're done with. Maybe it's checking your phone the moment you wake up. Maybe it's avoiding the hard task first thing in the day. Maybe it's negative self-talk when you fail. Step 2, write it down. Not in your head, on paper, on purpose. Step 3, create a replacement. Not a punishment, a practice. Example, pattern, I wake up and scroll. New choice, I breathe deeply 3 times and stretch before touching my phone. Pattern, I avoid writing. New choice, I open my doc and type 1 honest sentence, even if it's messy. Pattern, I say, I'm not ready. New choice, I say I'm learning as I go. 1 pattern, 1 line, 1 shift. Jim Rohn said, don't let your learning lead to knowledge, let it lead to action. Because small actions done differently change everything. 3. The pattern anchor. Set a reminder quote. Let's face it, old patterns are sneaky. They show up when we're tired, distracted, stressed. That's why you need an anchor. Something to ground your attention when it starts to drift. So here's what you do. Pick one sentence to keep with you, not on your wallpaper, but somewhere you see it with intention. Your mirror, your wallet, your lock screen. The quote is simple. Today I break the loop. I choose growth. Or I am not my past pattern. I am my present choice. Or pause. Breathe. Begin differently. This becomes your inner cue, your pattern interrupt. And when the loop starts to spin again, you see it. You breathe. You remember. Jim Rohn said, "Words do two major things. They provide food for the mind and create light for understanding. So let your chosen words light the way." Pause. Let's recap. Every night, 3-line reflection to name your pattern. Every morning, replace one pattern with one intentional action. All day, anchor your shift with a visible quote. That's not hard, that's not perfection, that's transformation. One breath at a time. You don't need to break your whole life to change your life. You just need to break one loop, and you can start today. Because if your past was written by repetition, then your future can be rewritten by choice. One moment, one micro shift, one conscious act of self-respect. Let's move forward, not by force, but by rhythm. Your pattern got you here, but your choice, that's what gets you out. Let's take a breath together, a real one. Inhale through the nose, hold for a moment, exhale slowly. You've just walked through a journey that started with a question: why do I feel stuck? Remember, we win. And what we've uncovered is this: you're not stuck because you're broken. You're not stuck because you're weak. You're not stuck because you lack discipline or motivation. You're stuck because you're repeating something that no longer serves you. A loop, a pattern, a familiar response. But here's the good news: anything repeated can be rewritten. You don't need a new life. You just need a new rhythm. Because every loop has a doorway, and today you've found yours. The doorway is awareness. The handle is discipline. The path forward is self-respect in action. Jim Rohn said, "Success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals." So ask yourself, what is one fundamental that I can return to, starting now? Not for the crowd, not for social proof, not for the perfect version of you think you must become, but for you, the you that's been waiting inside, to be remembered, to be respected, to be led. You see, this isn't about breaking patterns to prove anything. It's about remembering who you are beneath the pattern. You are resilient. You are capable. You are still writing this story. So here's your inner challenge. Don't leave this video with just inspiration. Leave it with integration. Right now, comment one truth below. I'm rewriting my pattern. That's your first public commitment. That's your way of saying, I see the loop and I choose something new. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, now. Because transformation never lives in the future. It breathes in the now. So repeat after me softly in your own voice, stuck. I am not choosing my direction. I am breaking the loop, one decision at a time. And if you truly believe that, then take that breath again. Feel it. Let it settle in your chest. Because today isn't the end of the pattern, it's the beginning of your authorship. And in case no one has told you lately, you are capable of extraordinary things. Not by becoming someone else, but by finally becoming fully yourself. Let that truth walk beside you. Let your choices reflect it. Let your patterns evolve to match it. And if this message touched something in you, comment below right now. I choose to begin again, because when you say it aloud, when you declare it with clarity, you stop chasing change and start creating it. Let this be your reset. Let this be your rhythm. Let this be your return. You are not stuck. You are becoming. And that is a beautiful pattern to repeat. Let's begin.